Qualifying for the Oscars is a pretty big deal.
And the Oscar goes to everything, everywhere, all at once.
It's a meaningful nod to everyone who worked on the film that says that it's really worthy of recognition. But sometimes, films that expect to qualify can't even get to that first step, but not for the reasons that you might expect. Richard Linklater's film, Apollo 10.5, seemingly did everything right to qualify for a possible nomination in the category of Best Animated Film at the Academy Awards. The film was longer than 40 minutes, at about an hour and a half runtime, and it was completely animated using a technique called rotoscoping. Linklater is no stranger to the Oscars. His 2012 film Boyhood, filmed over the course of 12 years of the main actor's life, was nominated across several categories at that year's Academy Awards. His films often center on coming of age and passing of time as genres that he really likes to explore. He's even done some other animated films earlier in his career too. Apollo 10.5 is probably the closest film to his own life story. It really combines his love for animation and the genres that he loves to explore. The film is a coming-of-age story set in the suburbs of Houston, Texas in the summer of 1969, centered around the historic Apollo 11 moon landing. Despite all of this, the Academy disqualified the film on a technicality, that rotoscoping didn't count as animation. Originally, rotoscoping was a machine invented by the legendary animator Max Fleischer in 1915. It allowed you to project an animated silhouette into a live-action film, and it became a cornerstone in the history of the medium. In the case of Apollo 10.5, IndieWire wrote that the animators used the computer program TV Paint to trace the live-action footage of the actors, but filled in every other detail, surrounding environments, lighting, colors, and other movements. Linklater may have a deep appreciation for rotoscoping, but that's not the only reason he chose it for the film. It also really makes sense with the story. He set out to capture several feelings using the technique: the nostalgia of growing up during the 60s, the awe and magic of space travel, and the way that we visualize memories. A big benefit of animation is your ability to place scenes anywhere. You can focus less on being accurate and more on being evocative. You're not hiring everyone to create a big set or fabricate dozens of costumes. Instead, you're focusing on the smaller details, like animating Jiffy Pop over a stove, or the specific wallpaper that you'd see in the 60s. But when it came time to qualify for Oscar recognition, the Academy took issue with this specific technique. According to IndieWire, the Academy's rules for official contenders require that movement and character performances are created using a frame-by-frame technique. Motion capture and real-time puppetry are disqualified by themselves, and animation must figure in no less than 75% of the picture's running time. The committee wrote that the Academy does not feel the technique meets the definition of animation in the category rules, due to the extensive use of live-action footage. But none of this footage was used outside of being drawn over as reference. As early as 1937, even Disney was using rotoscoping in films like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They continued using it for decades to come. Not only that, rotoscoped films have been nominated in the past in the same category, such as 2017's Loving Vincent. Linklater and his creative team understandably pushed back, and he wrote a letter directly to the Academy. These two films have employed nearly identical animation pipelines that, like Apollo 10.5, feature a frame-by-frame redrawing from live-action reference, not motion capture, with hundreds of animators working over 20 months during COVID lockdown, applying their artistry by hand. The difference between Apollo 10.5 and these qualifying films is stylistic. This naturalistic style is not a technical choice, or rather an artistic choice in the crucial area of how I want the film to look and feel. It is accomplished by the hard work of animators drawing character motion and performances frame by frame, not a side effect of some hidden software or automatic process. On top of that letter to the Academy, Vulture wrote that Linklater sent in several clips of production material, including a compilation of examples that isolate nearly every layer of labor that went into each shot. So what was the end result? The process took at least 6 months, with Linklater writing that letter to the Academy and getting public support from directors who'd made films with nearly identical processes. And the Academy ended up reversing their decision, allowing the film to qualify for nomination. But when all the nominees were announced, Apollo 10.5 didn't make the cut. Rotoscoping is animation. We agree. It's a beautiful way to recreate that live action footage, to trace over it and add a new layer that you couldn't have had before. It creates something totally new out of something that you may have already known. That's always going to be exciting, no matter what the Academy says. Let us know in the comments what you think about rotoscoping and what the future of animation could look like. And thanks for being here. Be sure to like us, follow, and subscribe for more.